how can you create transformation in your life? Having coached hundreds of people around the topic, I know that transformation is something that can be done and can put in place, and there's an actual structure when it comes to creating transformation in your life, in your work. When you look at different areas of your life, maybe it's in your work, your health, your relationships, look at something you would really like to create, some change that you would really like to put in place. Maybe it's starting your own business. Maybe it's getting back into shape. Maybe it's being more in touch with your friends and having a wider social life. Whatever that transformation is, think where you are now and what is the change you would like to put in place. This actual first step of looking at what is possible and having clarity around that goal is one of the most important steps when it comes to creating transformation. And I would even go as far as to say that 50% of transformation comes from that clarity. Because a lot of the time we feel stuck, we feel uninspired, we feel a bit lost and confused, we feel unfulfilled or not satisfied, but we don't really know why. And we don't really know how to create that change, but we don't know what change to create in the first place. So this is one thing that we can think about to begin with is when you look at the different areas in your life, what are some of the pain points? What are some of the things that are really blocking you, where you're feeling unfulfilled and dissatisfied? And what would the opposite look like? And some of these things might be things that are out of your control that you cannot change. This happens sometimes. And if that's the case, obviously putting a lot of energy and attention into this will just dilute your own energy and motivation. So I would recommend parking the things that you can't at all change and asking yourself, okay, amongst all these possible variants, what are the ones I can actually influence? Whether it's getting more into shape, whether it's changing the food that you eat, whether it's changing the way you show up at work. So for some people maybe listening or watching this, it might not be possible, at least for you initially, to change jobs or to totally quit or to start your own business for whatever reason. But you can change your attitude and how you show up at work, and maybe the way you do certain tasks, etc. So you want to look at all the different elements and think, how can you create this change and what would that transformation look like? Once you're really clear, and maybe you have several transformations that you would like to put in place. Maybe it's in your health and in your work and in your relationships. Maybe you want to redo the whole thing. Then write them down and prioritize which one comes first. Because when you want to create a full transformation of your life, which is possible, you can radically transform your entire life. And I've done it more than once in 6 months, maybe a year. This comes from clarity and it comes from prioritizing. I generally advise, if you're creating many different transformations, to begin with the one maybe around health or energy, because the better and the greater your health and your energy, the easier it is to then create other transformations in your life, whether it's in your work, your career, building your business, your relationships. So often that's the path that I recommend, but if you feel aligned with another path or another direction, that's fantastic too. So you want to look at what are the possible transformations, prioritize them, and then what do we do? So that's the first step, really gaining that clarity. And this is absolutely fundamental, because without clarity, how can you create any transformation? But clarity isn't everything. You can be 100% clear on what transformation you want to take, and then you get stuck. Once you're super clear, that's when commitment comes into place. And commitment isn't just a fancy word that you tell yourself to motivate yourself. Commitment is when you truly, truly honor that you're about to create this transformation, and that you put all of your attention, your energy, your motivation, your inspiration, everything that you have within you to commit fully to this goal, to this transformation. Often in those moments, something shifts within us. This is what Tony Robbins often says. He often says change happens in a moment. And what he means by this is that initial transformation, you can generally look back and remember that specific moment when you said, enough is enough. I am going to make a change. I'm going to make a transformation. Often this happens when we feel too much pain. When we feel that this is a situation we can no longer tolerate, this is when we decide to take the leap, to take the plunge, and to finally create this change and transformation. But the thing is, you don't need to wait until the pain is so big. You can engineer this feeling of enough is enough. And there's a very simple tool to do this. Visualize what your life will look like 3 years from now if you do not make any change whatsoever in your current health, relationships, and work. and fully absorb this and see it and feel it within you. This can be quite a painful exercise, especially if you're not fully satisfied in your life right now. But this is how you engineer this feeling of pain that you no longer want to tolerate your current circumstances. If you don't do this, there's a risk that you will just continue doing everything on an autopilot day by day and then reach a point where you're really dissatisfied. But maybe sometimes that is too late down the line. Maybe it's harder to make a change at that point. And so the sooner you embrace this feeling of pain and discomfort, the sooner you will feel motivated to fully commit to that change. While you do this visualization, there's the painful side, and then you can also look at the gain side. And this is when you picture yourself 3 years from now and you've made that change, you've made that transformation, you're now on a healthy track, your relationships are flourishing, you're happy and fulfilled within your work. And see how that feels. And contrast both of these visions, this extremely painful vision where you feel still stuck 3 years from now and things haven't progressed, and this really fulfilling, happy, joyous vision. And know that you can take actions along the way to reach this transformation. And it all starts with that clarity, which we've mentioned, but then that commitment, that full commitment. To honor a commitment, there are different things that you can do. Writing it down, and it has been said that goals that are written down are 3, 4, 5 times more likely to happen. What does it cost you to take a pen and paper and to write it down? When I quit my career of working at sea as an engineer, this was actually one of the fundamental points. There was one day, the breaking point that I talked about, where I thought, no more, I don't want to do this with my life anymore. And I took out my notebook, my working notebook at the time, and I wrote, a year from now, I will have quit my job at sea. And I signed it with the date. Back then, I didn't even know about goal setting. I didn't even know how important this was. And there was something quite special in the fact that I wrote it down. And at the time, I remember looking at this and thinking, but is this true? Could I really do this? But it set up a new tone and it changed the way I looked at my work. It changed my perspective. I had no idea then that I would then start my career as a coach. I didn't even know about coaching or keynote speaking or podcasting. It seems strange to believe there was a time I didn't even know about podcasting, but it's true. And that was the turning point. So commitment can begin with just writing it down. Then you might want to choose 1, 2, 3 people, but people that you really trust, people who won't discourage you, people who will support you in your change and your transformation. It's very, very tricky when it comes to sharing your goals and vision to everyone, because as you change and grow, sometimes your environment and your peer group will be a bit intimidated and might not support you on the journey. So when you share with people, make sure they're people that you know will support you. Maybe they've created that transformation. For example, if you're aiming for a health transformation or doing a marathon, maybe speak to people who have done one and then tell them, this is my vision a year from now. When I wanted to quit my work at sea, I started telling a few trusted people, a year from now, I will have quit my work at sea. And this really settles and anchors it. You're saying it to yourself, you're writing it down, you're saying it to people. And ideally, to really honor that commitment, when you first make that initial decision, you want to take some form of action. And not just talking about it or writing it down, but let's say you want to start your own business, maybe start opening your first website and create a landing page. Whether if you want to start being healthy, then go and get a gym membership. Do some small action to prove to yourself, okay, I'm serious here. We're getting serious. This isn't a joke anymore. This isn't some form of fantasy. Because often what can happen is that we go into this fantasy land of one day everything will be transformed and I'll finally do what I really want to do. And we just think about it a lot. Maybe we even talk about it. Maybe you even write it down, but then you don't take any action. So we want a small type of action to start that momentum and to prove to yourself this commitment. So the first step of any transformation is clarity. The second step is commitment. And the third step is courage. And courage to continuously and consistently believe in this transformation, believe that it's actually possible, believe that you're worthy of it, and take aligned action. So that first initial small action was just to set the ball rolling and to prove to yourself you were serious about it. This consistent action, the courage of taking consistent action, this is something that really creates that transformation. Clarity is that initial before you begin. What's the journey ahead? Where am I going? Aiming for that mountain, knowing where you're going. Commitment is crystallizing that this vision is something you're really embarking on. But then courage, that's the journey. That's where the transformation takes place. But once you have clarity and commitment in place, you have solid foundations. A lot of people start directly with action, maybe because they're very action-driven people, without this totally clear vision and without really honoring that commitment, they can get discouraged along the line. So just starting with action isn't the best idea. We really want this clarity, commitment, and then taking consistent, courageous actions towards this vision. What will happen along this journey as you're being brave, as you're taking bold actions, is you will meet different obstacles. And obstacles come in two shapes: internal obstacles, external obstacles. Internal obstacles are by far the hardest. Internal obstacles are self-doubt, limiting beliefs, fear of failure, fear of rejection, lack of clarity again. Maybe you did the clarity exercise at the beginning, but somewhere along the line you get confused. Discouragement, disappointment, overly high expectations. All of these are internal struggles. And when you have these internal obstacles, these internal struggles during the journey, that's when it gets harder and that's when you're more likely to quit. What can help? Anticipate that this will happen. Sometimes we're too eager, we're too enthusiastic. Yes, I'm going to create this transformation. I'm waking up every day at 5 and going to the gym for 2 hours, and then a weekend we quit because it's too hard. So we want to be somewhat realistic about the journey and the process we're putting in place. And we also want to anticipate there's going to be moments of doubts. There's going to be moments of fear. There's going to be moments where we don't believe it anymore. And put certain things in place to anticipate these. By putting things in place, what do I mean? Listen regularly to a podcast that gives you that extra boost of motivation. For instance, I'm part of several inner circles of different coaches, different mentors. I tune into their masterclasses, I tune into their podcasts, I listen to their YouTube videos maybe. And all of these things help me get on track when I have a bit of a dip. We'll have a dip, we know we'll have a dip. So what are the systems you're putting in place? Obviously, working with a one-on-one coach, sometimes a one-on-one mentor is absolutely fantastic. I've worked with over 10 coaches and mentors, and this helps you to stay on track when you get these ups and downs. But it's equally possible to do this through reading different books, listening to different podcasts, but have these systems in place as habits, because if you just rely on that initial motivation, initial boost, it's not going to keep you going through all the internal struggles unless you're used to creating transformation, you're used to these patterns and these internal struggles, you recognize them and you're able to break through them. But if it's the first time you're creating, or maybe the second time you're creating a big transformation in your life, you need to have some tools in place to anticipate these struggles. So these were these internal obstacles. Then there's also the external obstacles. And these are things like the website isn't working, maybe your funnel building and that doesn't work out. Maybe even the gym you were going to closes down. All of these things are external obstacles. Now there's something very interesting when it comes to external obstacles. They are very easy to deal with if you don't have any internal obstacles. I'll repeat this. So external obstacles are very easy to deal with if you don't have any internal obstacles. Why is that? Because when the gym closes, or when your funnel isn't working, or when your new marketing strategy isn't on point, all of these things that are external, if you have really strong self-belief, perseverance, motivation, no fear, in this ideal scenario, you just learn, try something again. The reason external obstacles are challenging is because they make the internal obstacles bigger. You're already having fear of failure and fear of rejection, and then this person goes and says no. And then this thing happens and it shows to you it's actually harder than you thought. The external obstacles are just shining a light on what you were afraid of inside. This is why I would definitely say that if you're able to master as much as possible, we're human, we're going to have moments of doubts and fear, etc. But if you're able to overcome them quite quickly and swiftly and have some habits in place to help you to persevere, this will make it a lot easier to deal with all the external obstacles that will also happen. Let's briefly recap. To create any change or transformation in your life in any given area, first, full clarity. Where are you now and where do you want to go? And why is it important for you? I didn't mention this at the beginning, but of course, why do you even want to create that transformation? If your purpose isn't strong, then why the heck go through all this effort, right? So very strong clarity and very strong purpose, super important. Then second step, commitment, and commitment through writing, through telling people, through taking that baby step. And the third step is courage. Courage to consistently take aligned action, but also courage to work on your internal obstacles, to overcome them, and to work on the external obstacles, which is a lot easier once the internal obstacles are dealt with. This framework can support you to create any transformation you want in your life. You have all the inner resources, you have all the inner power to create this transformation, and you have the ability to look for the podcasts, the books that can support you along the way also. It's absolutely possible. I have helped many clients to do this. I have gone through transformations myself, and I fully believe that at any given moment, we can choose and we can decide to rewire and change at least certain areas in our life. And when we embrace this philosophy, that's when we have the courage to take that leap and create the transformation. If this is something that you're interested in exploring further, if you want to create a transformation in your life, in your work, I have special few slots opening up to work one-on-one with founders and entrepreneurs. I will put a link in the comments, both on YouTube and on my podcast, and would love to hear from you if this is a transformation you want to create in your life or in your work. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write in the comments or the reviews what are you taking away from this episode, and also let me know if you have any questions on this topic. Thank you so much for tuning in.